Hey guys, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast where you learn how to create a beautiful home and build a creative business. Grab a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot in the house, and let's chat. I'm excited you're here. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Jennifer with the Jennifer Allwood Show, and I'm so excited to be with you guys again this week and to get to chit-chat and share my heart and encourage you. And I've got a great podcast lined up for today. I'm super excited. So I'm actually today going to answer a question from one of my podcast listeners or viewers or watchers. And Sharon sent in a really sweet question that she was wanting to get my thoughts on and my encouragement on. And it's funny because I got several questions very similar to this and focusing on this topic in just a couple weeks' time. And I thought, okay, a lot of people are asking me how to get their spouse more supportive of their creative business. And I know if I'm getting 3 or 4 emails, that means there's probably double that aren't emailing me with their questions. And so I'm going to come on this podcast today and just give you some things that I think will help. If you're someone that has a spouse that is maybe not ultra supportive of the business that you're trying to run or the business that you're trying to launch or the business dream that you have. And so let me read for you, first of all, Sharon's question, and then we're going to get right into what I'm talking about today. So bless Sharon's heart. She said, "Hey, Jennifer, I get no support from my spouse, like zero, zilch. I love the man, but come on. Right now, I make things for gifts and I give it all away. So yes, I guess it's no wonder that he doesn't support me." And when I got Sharon's email, I thought, okay, well, Sharon must be a lot like me. She's a verbal processor. And so as I think she was typing out the email to me, I think she was answering one of her own questions. And I think her question was, how can I get my husband to be more supportive? And then she kind of actually answered her own question when she said, "I'm giving it all away." In other words, she's making no money, so it's no wonder that her husband doesn't support her. And so that is one of the things I want to talk about today, just different reasons that maybe you have a spouse that doesn't appear to be supporting your business ideas and dreams. And then to take it one step further and talk to you guys about some practical things that you can do to try to get your spouse on the same page, because at the end of the day, owning a business is a big deal. It is a big stinking deal. But so is being married, okay? And the marriage piece of it is actually way bigger than the business piece of it. And you need to have unity within the marriage and not be trying to do things in the business that are kind of putting the marriage boat off center. And so we're going to talk about those things, all right? So I wrote down and kind of chatted with Mr. Magic, who you all know is my husband, on some reasons why perhaps a spouse, and I'm really talking about husbands here, just because the majority of my listeners are female, but reasons that your spouse may potentially not be supportive of your business. And so number one is kind of what Sharon was writing in about. The very first thing we came up with is that he may be seeing that you're doing all of this work and there's absolutely no profit, or there's very little profit. And at the end of the day, like, it doesn't make sense to be putting a ton of work and energy and blood and sweat and tears and frustration and hours and heartache and pushing when there's no revenue coming in. That will discourage him and it'll discourage you. And so the way around that, ladies, is if you are doing work for free, you have to start charging for what you're worth. And the majority of the time, there's a few reasons why women don't charge at all. A lot of times they feel guilty about it. They feel like, okay, well, this is just, kind of a little talent that I have. They really downplay what it is that they do. And, therefore I shouldn't charge for it. Or they're doing what it is that they're really great at for their family and friends. And so they think, gosh, I shouldn't be charging them. This is my sister-in-law, or this is my cousin or my best friend or what have you. And so they don't want to charge. And at the end of the day, if you're not charging for whatever it is that you're making, creating, or doing, you're really involved in a hobby. You don't have a business. A business charges money and makes money. A hobby plays with it. And so there has to be a mind shift there for Sharon and potentially anybody else who's listening to this podcast, that it is not only okay for you to charge for the work that you're doing, but it's actually like mandatory. It's actually necessary because you will end up throwing in the towel if you continue to do it for free, because you end up feeling very resentful, and so does your spouse. So start charging for what it is that you're doing. Number 2 reason that your spouse may not be supportive of your business. And this is kind of a tender topic here, so I'm going to tread really lightly, but it is possible that your husband has watched you start and stop a variety of things in your relationship. Perhaps he's seen you start new exercise programs and, fizzle out really quickly, or a new way of eating, maybe a potential different diet plan. Maybe you thought you were going to go paleo and that only lasted a couple weeks and you kind of fell off the wagon. Those are just a couple of random examples. But I know that often our spouses have seen us kind of get grand ideas and have little follow through. Therefore, when we present to them a new grand idea in the form of, perhaps a business, they're like, wait a minute. This is just another one of those things that Jen's dreaming up, and I'll kind of believe it when I see it type of thing. And so it's up to us as the business owners to really make them see it. Like, we can't just assume that they believe that just because we say this time's going to be different, that it's actually going to be different. Does that make sense? And so baby steps here. If you're wanting to start a business and your husband's not being supportive because you've had a real lack of follow through, you need to have some serious conversations with him. And then you really need to actually demonstrate follow through, commitment, dedication, discipline. Those things will go a long, long way. Number 3 reason that your spouse may not be sharing the same love that you have for your business. He probably just doesn't share your passion. It's so funny because we assume that just because we have, this business idea and this business dream and this passion for making or creating whatever it is that we're doing, maybe it's writing, maybe it's composing, maybe it's painting like it is for me. You cannot expect your spouse to share in that passion. Like, honestly, he's probably, if he's a lot like my husband, he kind of knows what's going on in the industry and things because he hears me talk about it, but he's not all in the know, I mean, he has no idea. He's not passionate about paint at all. He could care less. He'd probably prefer his wife to quit painting so much. He jokes that we're losing square footage in our home from all the different layers of paint that we have in the house. And so you can't expect your spouse to share in your passion. And don't mistake that for non-support. His lack of the same passion that you have is very, very normal. And so I just want to mention that as reason number 3, it might just be that you're misconstruing, the vibes that he's putting up. It may not be that he's not supportive. He's just not as passionate about it. He might not even care what it is that you're going to do for your business. You go, girl. And so don't mistake the two. All right. Number 4. Quite possible he's not being supportive because he's already counting the cost. And this is major, ladies. Okay, so your husband probably knows full good and well the amount of time that a business is going to take. He knows the amount of energy that you're going to have to put into what you're doing. He understands that your attention is now going to be very much divided. All right. And so a lot of times, especially when we're moms, our husbands, sometimes they get the back seat for a while when we're in mommy mode, when the kids are smaller. As they get a little bit older, some of those hats that we have to wear, they change a little bit, and our kids don't need us quite as much as what they once did. But having a baby business is the same thing. A baby business requires a lot of attention from the business owner. There are so many different moving parts that all have to come together, and so many things that have to get started. You have to be starting your social media. You need to be starting a website. You need to be getting your business, named, and there's accounting things, and then there's the actual making of whatever it is you want to make, and then there's the marketing, and it kind of goes on and on and on. And your husband may be counting the cost. He may just be looking at this idea going, okay, I already feel like we're stretched really thin for time. I already know how exhausted she is at the end of the day. He may just be nervous that this next amazing thing that you're wanting to do is going to kind of tip the scales. Do you know what I'm saying? It might be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. And so he may just be counting the cost and nervous about what he knows is in store. Because anybody that starts up a business needs to understand it is not all fun and games. In the beginning especially, there is a lot of work and a lot of hustle. And so your job is just to show him your commitment level, and to also show him the potential, and to also make sure you are taking time away from the business and making sure you're giving ample time to your husband, your family, your kids, your friends, your extracurricular activities. Because at the end of the day, I have always said, if I turn out to have this incredible business and I'm just, an incredible painter, who cares if I have failed my husband and failed my kids? And that's the honest to goodness truth. The business has to be number 3. And so it might just be that he's counting the cost, and lots of communication is the only answer for that situation. All right. Number 5, he may not be very supportive because he is nervous. Okay. And he has actually a lot of reason to be nervous. I did a podcast a while back on the fact that 8 out of 10 small businesses, startups fail. It's just a matter of numbers, and data don't lie, is the saying. And so the cards are stacked against you when you're a small business owner. And so he might very well know that. And he may also be someone that just really is not into risk. And so if he's someone that doesn't like to gamble, he's not into risk, he understands the statistics in terms of, the people that actually make it at this thing and the people that actually fail, he might just be nervous, and with really good reason. And so that's going to take lots of communication, lots of planning between the two of you, probably drawing him more into the business and into your thoughts and ideas and plans so that he has a better feeling about what's in store. All right. Number 6. There is a possibility, and this goes both ways, ladies. It goes both ways, but there's a possibility that he may not be supportive because he might struggle with insecurity. And that is just the hard truth. He may not like change. He may want you to stay kind of, the way that things have always been, the way that you guys have gotten used to as a couple. He may be, I'm just thinking of different scenarios here, had his own business dreams that he's kind of, pushed down and pushed off to the side just because reality has taken over. 3 kids and a mortgage has taken over. Maybe he feels like his opportunities he let pass up. And there's a lot of different reasons that a spouse could potentially be insecure about their spouse starting their own business. It's not every man that is cut out for his wife to be a business owner, honestly, because it does take a sacrifice of the entire family. And I know in terms of our relationship, Jason is very, very secure in who he is, the position he holds in our family. He is very secure in who God created him to be and what his strengths and what his talents are and what he brings to both my business and our relationship. And so my husband has absolutely no problem with me being the one whose face is all over social media, and me being the one that's traveling for business, and me being the one, that has a large platform online right now with close to 500,000 people following me on the different places. So he's okay with all of that, but not all husbands would be. And ladies, that's something that you're going to have to pray about. And we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes because that's actually nothing that you can change. It's actually an issue that he's going to have to address, and I'm going to suggest that you go get addressed together, actually. And so this definitely is not a man-bashing thing or anything like that. This is more just cold, hard reality and truth, and I'm trying to help you, okay? So point number 7 on why your husband potentially is not being very supportive. And this is kind of interesting. Sometimes women are shocked that their spouses are not supportive of their business stuff when the reality is that they're not supportive of the dreams their husband has had along the way. And so it's a two-way street here, okay? It's you can't expect him to be doing cartwheels and all excited and 100% supportive of you when a couple years ago he had a dream and you really were like, oh no, I'm nervous. We need benefits and a 401k, and this isn't the right time, and the economy, and whatever else. Okay. And so we need to sometimes pause and figure out, all right, have I been as supportive as his spouse as I possibly could be? Because if the answer is no, then that's quite potentially the reason why he may not be supporting you. And so those are the 7 reasons that Jason and I came up with on why sometimes a spouse is not as supportive as they could be, and why you're feeling as though they're unsupportive. And so I have some ideas for you, okay? I'm not just going to come on here and tell you all the problems. I actually am going to give you some suggestions. So if you're someone that likes to take notes, get out a pen and paper, baby, because I do have some suggestions, and these will help, okay? And so first of all, I just want to say, Jason and I have been married for nearly 20 years, and we like to joke that only 19 of those were happy. But I started my business just 3 years into our marriage. And so this has been the majority of our marriage, has been me being a business owner. And, our marriage is not perfect, but we have learned a thing or two along the way. And I feel like whenever I get the opportunity to share some of the knuckle-headed things that we've gone through and the knuckle-headed decisions that we've made, if I can save other marriages from making some of those same mistakes, that it will totally be worth it, that we had to walk down through some of those things. And so first thing that I'd like to say, in terms of if you have an unsupportive spouse, on what you need to do is, number one, you need to pray. Number one, you need to pray. That's the number one answer pretty much for any issue there is, but especially this one, okay? Because at the end of the day, you can try to work this thing, ladies. You can try to approach him in such a way that, you're giving him the data and you're giving him the ideas, and you guys are trying to communicate as much as possible. You can try to manipulate him into thinking a certain thing. You can try presenting only the flowery, wonderful, beautiful parts of owning your own business. But the truth is, none of that will be as good as if the Lord and the Holy Spirit convict him of just his need to support his wife. So the first thing you need to do is pray. And you need to ask the Lord if he will change your husband's heart, okay? And prayer is the number one thing that you can do absolutely in this situation that will help. All right. And don't pray that he changes his mind, and don't pray that God would show him exactly what needs to be done, but more just pray that a lot of times I'll say, Lord, help me to understand my husband's position. Help me to understand his heart, even when I hear his words, but I know that there's something else behind it. Does that make sense? Because a lot of times the reason our spouse will give us for a reason they are upset or unsupportive about something, it really isn't the reason. And it's our job to try to figure out what is it that is actually the root of something. So ladies, pray. Okay, pray. Number 2, you need to honor your husband. And if he is absolutely adamant that you are not doing a business or that the time is not right, et cetera, when you honor your husband, God honors you. I know that that's the absolute truth. And I've seen it and witnessed it at different times in my life, at different times in my career, that when God tells me I need to honor something, boy, I better get in line quick. And, the Bible actually talks about where there is unity, there is a commanded blessing. And so if you try to start a business, which is already so difficult, and you go into this business without unity in your marriage and there is tension in the home, it will eventually turn into resentment, okay? Trust me on this. And that is going to do nothing but just intensify everything that comes up in your business that's not going well. And so honor your husband. And honestly, if he is adamant about you not starting the business for whatever reason, suggest going to talk to somebody. Jason and I have been to talk to a marriage counselor multiple times in our marriage, you guys. There is no shame in that game. And most marriage counselors will tell you that the majority of the people wait way too long until they've got one foot out the door in a divorce before they seek counseling. So seek counseling at the beginning of an issue before the thing snowballs into a major problem in your marriage. All right. Honoring your husband is, it's important to the Lord. It's important, and it will pay off incredibly in your business if you do that right. And so honor your husband. Try to figure out why he's so adamant. See if you can maybe go talk to somebody else, but honor him. And he's your covering, ladies, and you want your business to be covered with his blessing. All right. So you need to communicate a lot if you've got some, disagreements or just a difference in opinion about starting an own business. I suggest you over communicate and start with some things like having conversations about what it is that he would feel comfortable with you doing. What can he commit to? What baby step is he okay with? Maybe he's not okay with you quitting your 9-to-5 job yet, but maybe he's absolutely fine with you picking out a business name and you starting a business Facebook page. All right. Maybe he's okay with you just at least starting to do some side work. You come up from your 9-to-5 job. Maybe he's okay with you just painting a couple furniture pieces in the evening. Maybe he's okay. You find out what he's okay with. This is a great time to do some give some ideas, do some brain dumping, brainstorm. How can you guys make this work? How can this business fit into what you both envision for your marriage? Okay. And so figure out what his concerns are, validate those, and then also just over communicate and really try to come up with a plan together. All right. Another thing you can do when your husband does show support or encouragement, or he comes along and beside you in your business and he's your best cheerleader, I encourage you to appreciate him both privately and publicly. Okay, so you guys have asked me before, how I get Mr. Magic to do so many things around the house. I tell everybody when my man does a project, everybody, and I've got a big mouth. So, when Jason's doing a project around the house, you're going to see it on Facebook. You're going to see it on Instagram. I'm going to be singing his praises from the rooftops. And you want to know why? Number one, it's because I appreciate him. Number two, I want him to know that I tell other people besides just him that he's appreciated. Like, you have to have both and. If I'm just telling him, baby, thank you so much. You're such a good husband. Thank you for doing all these projects around the house. That's fine and dandy. But when we're out with a group and I'm telling my girlfriends and he can hear this and he knows the conversation, yes, he made me a new set of barn doors. Oh my gosh, yes, I'm so lucky to have this man. It just makes your men stand up straighter. And women, this is your position in your household. It honestly is. And I'm not talking about just flattering him, unauthentically, but I'm saying if you appreciate what he's doing, you need to be screaming it from the rooftops. You need to be telling him and you need to be telling other people, even if you're in the baby step stages. Because if you're appreciating him and he's saying that he's okay with you, starting out with some little baby steps in this business. And then all of his friends are like, dang, dude, that's awesome. So great that you're supporting her. That's amazing. That breeds more of the same. Okay. There is a multiplication factor. It's like putting your money in a 401k. It multiplies, baby. And so when we are giving people praise and appreciation, that multiplies just as much. It's like a big old appreciation snowball. And I promise you, if you will begin to do those things in your marriage, it will show up with him supporting your business more and more and more and more. Okay. So last thing I suggest, if you have an unsupportive spouse and you are a business owner, you have to, absolutely have to, must get around like-minded people who you can talk about your business with. Okay. So this is one of the reasons God gave us girlfriends. All right. Not everything is meant to be discussed with our spouse. All right. And it's not that we're keeping secrets, but there's things that I tell my BFFs that, and I'm not talking secrets, but they don't really care about the new line of makeup from Target or Unique. Do you know what I'm saying? And so get around some business people and talk about business stuff. Don't expect your husband to share that same passion and want to hear about this day in and day out. I know there's times when I'm talking to Jason about, new things going on in my business, or I have a lot of business trips coming up in the next couple of months and I'm telling him who the speakers are and I'm telling him what's going down. And I can see him beginning to glaze over because, again, this isn't his business. He don't care. It's okay that he don't care because he gives me his full blessing to go and do what I'm going to do in my business. But it is imperative that you're around like-minded people then. And if you can't find them in real life, like RLF, is that right? In real life. IRL. There you go. IRL. If you can't find them in real life, then find them online. All right. And so we have, I have a monthly coaching group of like-minded creative entrepreneurs. It's called the Inner Circle. You can find this on my website. So just go to themagicbrushinc.com and find it there. But it is a group of like-minded people. And this is where we do all the idea bouncing. This is where we do all the hashing over and trying to figure out next steps and talking things out in that group, okay? You need to be talking to business people about business stuff, honestly. And so get around some people that can encourage you on whatever it is that you're doing. And the final thing here, I think I said that was the final thing, and I lied. The final thing is start making some money at this business. Honestly, when you start actually bringing in a paycheck from the thing that's been a hobby of yours for so long, your husband or your spouse will begin to take notice. They honestly will, because then it's not just a hobby and a plaything. It's actually legit. And when they see that it's actually legit, they can kind of get excited about the potential of where you're telling them that this business could go. And so when you start showing them the money, they'll start showing some interest in this, I promise. And so I hope that that is super, super, super duper helpful. Sharon, I hope that that more than answered your question. I hope that this podcast was, I hope it gave you some ideas. I hope it's made you pause and maybe think of some different ways of relating with your spouse in terms of your business that I think will, if you implement, you will actually see just a ton of fruit from it.
Hey friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you're here and that you just listen week in and week out and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, or if you're an Android user, go download the Stitcher app and you can subscribe there so that you know every single week when a new episode releases. Also, if you have any time to leave us a review, these reviews are super important in getting guests for the show and sponsors for the show. And so we'd appreciate it if you have just a second to leave us a review. That would be amazing. Thank you guys again for being here. And until next week, stay creative.